If you're scared to edit your landscape photography in Lightroom, then this video is for you. Because today, I'll be showing you a super simple workflow that anybody can do, especially if you're a beginner landscape photographer. So let's jump right in and get right to it. What's up, y'all? It's a Project Photography, back with another video, and today, before we get started, make sure to follow all of my socials down in the description bar below. But today, I want to show you a super easy Lightroom workflow that anyone can take into their landscape photography. Now, this video is mainly aimed at beginners, for people who have never touched Lightroom before and want to get into editing their photos for landscape photography. Now, this is the exact workflow that I used when I was first starting out, and obviously things have gotten a lot more complicated, but for the most part, this will give you a really good foundation to understand how the different sliders work in Lightroom, as well as how it affects your photos. And I'll be showing you everything from how I organize my photos, the unedited versus edited folders, as well as how to create that catalog, as well as the type of files you need to actually start editing. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into my computer and I'll show you guys how to organize your files. So first thing I do is always create an unedited versus an edited folder. Now I keep all my raw images in the unedited, and then all the edited photos get exported into this file. So this is the photo that I'm editing today, so I'm gonna go ahead and drop it into the unedited folder. And as you guys can see in this image, it is an NEF file. So what exactly does that mean? That is essentially a raw image. So if you go into your camera and you look at the different type of image files, you can see there's like JPEG, fine JPEG, normal JPEG, but there's also an option for raw. And this is what you primarily want to be shooting in if you're going to go ahead and edit your photos. And it'll just give you far more flexibility in Lightroom to go ahead and adjust your colors and adjust the exposure without a loss of detail. So the next thing you'll probably do is go ahead and just open up Adobe Lightroom Classic. I personally use Classic, but this pretty much works on the regular Adobe Lightroom. So it says that the Lightroom catalog was not found. So let's go ahead and choose a different catalog, and we'll go ahead and create a new catalog. And we'll go ahead and put it in our drive. So I'll just do the project photography, and we'll just go ahead and let it open up there. So once you're at this stage where you have the library, develop, map, you see all these things on top here, let's just go ahead and go to library. So we can go ahead and drag and drop our photos in. From there, we can just go ahead and hit import. And then we can start editing our image. So the only way we can actually start editing it is just going to develop. So the first thing we're gonna start adjusting is the temperature and tint. So essentially the temperature is how warm or cool the photo is, and tint is how much green or pink tint there is in the image. So all I wanna do is kind of adjust it so that it's as even as possible and that we get colors that resemble something that's more natural. So my initial thought process when editing images is that I want it to be as natural and close to the original location as possible. I don't want to edit things in a way that it makes it look unnatural. The main thing we're going to be worrying on here is exposure, highlight, shadows, white, black, clarity, and dehazing. Now obviously you can go ahead and mess with the other stuff, but today we're just going to be focusing on that. Exposure affects how much light is brought into the image. Highlight affects only the highlight part. So as you can see, as we bring up the highlight slider going up and down, it only affects this part because that's where the highlights are mainly affected. Same thing with the shadows, right? If we bring down the shadows, you can see that only the shadows are affected. And then the white part is, obviously there's gonna be more white than there are highlights. White and black are kind of similar in the sense that it'll affect more of the image. So for the clarity, it's essentially adding more, I don't wanna say sharpness is the right word, but it definitely feels like it. As you can see, it just makes the image like pop a lot more. And then for dehazing, you're obviously adding in haze or decreasing haze. So you can go about it either way. As you move the slider to the right of dehazing, you get much more saturated colors, as well as crunching the blacks and the shadows a lot more. And if you go to the other side of the dehazing slider, you'll get the opposite effect where it kind of adds haze in. It makes it a lot less contrasty. For now, let's just go ahead and make an edit on this. So just by adjusting these, we're gonna go ahead and bring up the exposure just a little bit so that this histogram here is nice and even. Bring up the highlight just because I want to add a little bit more pop to the sun area here. We're gonna bring down the shadows oh so slightly. We're gonna bring up the whites a little bit as well, just so we can add a little bit more pop to the image. And then we're gonna go ahead and bring down the blacks very slightly as well, just kind of bringing that contrast. And as we see, as we make those changes there, we can see a pretty big difference before and after. It's a lot more pleasing to the eye. And all we're gonna go ahead and do is add a little bit of clarity in here. I kind of like the more hazy look to the image. So obviously with this slider, it's pretty potent. So you know, you wanna be a little bit light on it initially, but you go ahead and change it as you go. And as we click this button here, we can see the before and the after. And obviously that edit is nice and even here. So this is a really good starting point, a really good foundation to go ahead and make more edits. For example, if you want to mess with these tone curves here, you're more than welcome to do so, as well as HSL and color grading. So now let's talk about how to actually export this file once you're done. So once you're happy with the before and after, we can go ahead and go to File and then just do Export. And then make sure we know which folder we are putting it into. So I'm clicking Drive, go into my edited folder, choose that. And then I want to bring my quality up all the way to 100. Image format JPEG is perfectly fine because we're editing a final product. So go ahead and click Export there. And we should have our final image. As you can tell right here, this is the final photo. It looks pretty good in my opinion. I'm pretty happy with it. The colors look good. Exposure looks solid. That is essentially it for this workflow. As you guys can see, it is very simple, very easy. And if you're starting out, this is a great way to first get some practice experience under your belt with photo editing. And you can use this for pretty much any image. And like I said, I obviously used this when I was initially starting out and expanded on top of it. And one thing I'd really recommend is to experiment. Try out different sliders, see what affects the image and as a whole, because you can take and learn from those different experiences and integrate it into your workflow to maybe affect the image in the way that you want to affect it and come out with the images that you want. So anyways guys, that's pretty much it for the video. Let me know what kind of editing techniques that you guys would want to see down in the description bar below, or any problems that you have with editing, because from there I can kind of derive, okay, here's how we can solve that and so forth, and make a video based off of it. So anyways guys, thank you so much for experiencing the world with me today. Please feel free to rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.